Every week on the Totally Radvertising podcast, we meet with founders, CEOs, writers, and directors to talk about the creative choices that have made the biggest impact on their brands. And this isn't just any podcast because
it's totally Radvertising.
I'm Dallin Koski.
And I'm Damian and Dallin.
It's totally rad. It's totally Radvertising.
And welcome back to the Totally Radvertising podcast, Super Bowl LIX edition. How's it going, everybody? I'm Damian Dayton, the creative guy, joined by Dallin Koski, the performance guy, and a special guest, Jordan Farley,
What's
one
up?
of our editors here.
What's going on, guys? It's me, Jordan Farley.
Yeah, I know a lot of you the people have been crying out for Jordan Farley to join the podcast, and he's here.
Here I am.
And we thought we'd do a special Super Bowl episode today and go over the best and worst of the Super Bowl ads, what people really care about. First of all, overall, impressions of the Super Bowl.
The game itself,
Everything.
it was fine. I think it was fine. It was definitely not the best I've ever watched, but I've seen worse.
You wanted the Chiefs to lose. That's why you enjoyed it.
Yes, that's true.
I didn't care who was going to win. I thought it was the most boring game I've ever seen in my life. Pretty much.
Fortunately,
at least there was high scoring somewhat, but horrible Super Bowl.
Yeah, fortunately.
And I only saw Taylor Swift one time. So
Yeah, it's like, well, if if her team's not doing well.
yeah.
But how many times did you see Travis Kelce frowning?
Oh, he was sad. He was a sad boy.
At least 8
sure.
times.
Yeah.
Only going to have 2 Super Bowl rings.
It was me and 5 women watching the Super Bowl. They were all just wanting to see Taylor Swift. So
Yeah. So
and I was just watching for the ads.
And I usually watch it for the ads, but you know what I did? I spent a great day with my family, cooked dinner. We didn't even turn on the TV. It was fantastic. But I watched ads, watched a lot of ads, so many ads. And let's get into the numbers.
Hold on. One thing before we start the numbers.
Yeah.
I want to know what you think about the strategy behind releasing all the ads early.
Yeah, so I was going to get into it. I think there's several. I think it's a bad move. I think it's a good move if you're not going to be the best ad. And so what you can do is be the first ad. If you're not going to be the best ad, be the first ad and give somebody something to talk about. But if you want everybody a buzz, you won't get the power. You're paying that super high rate for the Super Bowl to get simultaneity, to get everybody talking about it. But if some are talking about it before and they're talking about, was it really great? Was it a great Super Bowl ad? I don't think it goes as far. So I think the first one I saw this year was called out by Daniel, one of our ad buyers, was the Totino's ad, which actually the station turned down and didn't actually show. So in their case, it actually did something, and it wasn't like it was that edgy of an ad either, and it was okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea, like the Today Show, I think they're making money off of. They're like, oh, and in this ad, this company, and I think it also works if your strategy is not to make a splash on the Super Bowl, but you're launching a campaign, and you're like, okay, the Super Bowl is D-Day, but we've got this war that we're fighting, this marketing war campaign that we're rolling out. This is going to be our first piece of it, and we're going to keep doing it. So, like maybe I actually didn't love the Matthew McConaughey spot. We'll talk about that one. A lot of ad people love it, and I think it serves them more than it serves the American people. But for a company like that, it helps roll out and have sustained presence, not just during the Super Bowl. So that's kind of what I think. It's kind of fun to get leaked ones and whatnot. What surprises me more, though, is the brands that did a Super Bowl ad and you can't find it on Monday morning. Like you're missing all of the long tail. If people are talking about your ad, good or bad, they want to show it to somebody right away. There's all this free real estate right now. And it surprised me, at least 3 ads I had to find on Dailymotion, which mostly surprised me because I didn't know Dailymotion still existed. And so, like, if you didn't put your ads on YouTube, I would put them up as soon as they aired, or like 5 seconds before, the strategy I would recommend. But if you didn't put them up then you're an advertisement for Dailymotion. That's what I remember. I can't even remember the ones that weren't on YouTube right away, but I remembered, Dailymotion. Hey, they're making a comeback, I guess. You know, next is GeoCities, I think.
I haven't even heard of that.
Oh, it was like the early website, like pre-MySpace dancing. Yeah.
I was trying to think of just all the reasons that somebody would release their ad early.
Yeah.
And to me, just from more of the performance mindset, I feel like if you release it early and somebody or, you know, a bunch of people have a chance to watch it, then I feel like the recognition of the ad during the Super Bowl, they're like, oh, this is that one ad. And then I think they watch it again and they catch more from it.
Yeah.
So you kind of get that. It kind of just sets in more, right? The second time you watch it, you know, you pick up a lot more. And usually the Super Bowl, you're seeing an ad once, right?
Well,
I noticed that with the homes.com one, where I had seen a clip of that. They'd been showing a clip of that, the one actress was trying to imitate Morgan Freeman, but they didn't show in the clip that Morgan Freeman was going to be in it. And so that recognition hit me. And then I paid more attention to the ad because I knew that one clip, but then I was like, oh, there's more. So I kind of like the idea of putting something out, but don't put all of it out initially.
Tease the ad.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. I think that's, especially if you have a big campaign where you can give people a taste of it and they're like, I want to see the best. There actually is great data from, I began my marketing career really marketing independent films. There's really great data that in a comedy, the jokes that are in the commercials, whether or not they're the best jokes or not, they get the biggest laugh from test audiences, not vice versa. They don't pick the ones with the best laughs, but people are like, oh, this is the joke from the commercial. Here it comes, and it's here. Let's laugh. Like, you know it's coming, but you know, and if you go see Jim Gaffigan live, you want him to see him do something about Hot Pockets, bacon, like, you know, those jokes you want. So here's Super Bowl by the numbers. We didn't see as much Taylor Swift, and it showed. The price per ad, one report said, the price per ad went up slightly from 7 million to 8 million. To me, that's not like $1 million's not slightly in any, unless we're talking about like U.S. deficit. But the viewership was actually way down from 127.3 million on TV to 113 million on TV. So almost 15 million people less, yet they were charging more. And they should have known that, because I think the NFL wanted the Chiefs. I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories that they wanted them on, but sequels never do as well as the original, like almost a universal fact. So I think that viewership was down partially because it was boring, but it was also partially because there's a drift to streaming. I think Tubi may have reported around 10 million viewers watching it on their streaming platform. And obviously they're going to have completely different advertisers, a completely different ad buy. So I think that'll be interesting to see what that does to Super Bowl ad buyers' budgets when they realize this is no longer a cultural moment. Last year's Super Bowl was the highest watched event on television since the moon landing.
Wow.
And then we're back down again. And I don't think that we'll see it up that time. I mean, and the moon landing was in the 60s when there was a fraction of the population that there is now.
And like 2 channels.
Yeah. And it's like half the people had their TV on because that was the only thing to do at the time. But anyway, so how that maths out for ad buyers, if you're looking, last year you were like dealing with the Costco of ad buys. It was 5.6 cents per view. This year you're looking at the Sam's Club of ad buying. It's 7 cents per view ad. So, you know, it's actually significantly more affordable to advertise on Facebook than to buy a Super Bowl ad per view, even if you want that many views, you know. But let's get into some of the ads. Biggest winners for you. What's the biggest winner, Jordan? I'm unprepared. Biggest winners as far as ads go for you.
In terms of enjoyment, which is what I look for mostly in Super Bowl ads, I have a differing opinion to you, and I actually really like the Totino's ad because I love Tim Robinson, and I love his style of humor, and it felt like he wrote it, or at least his style of writing. And so even though, and that was similar to what I was saying before, where they had released the ad before, but it was different. They kind of made a little sequel, because the original one it was just them talking to the little alien guy, and then the one they showed in the Super Bowl was the alien guy leaving, and then getting crushed by the door. So that was for me the one that I enjoyed most. I wouldn't say it inspired me to go get Totino's pizza rolls. I saw it as a sketch, and that was fun for me.
Yeah, I was going to make the same point, but also why I didn't love it, because I was like, I love Tim Robinson too. I think You Should Leave is hilarious. Detroiters is, it's like 70% of I think You Should Leave.
Disagree.
Okay.
Disagree.
Okay. But I was like, oh, they give me like a Tim Robinson sketch light, and then throw in some Totino's roll. But I think it hits their demographic right between the eyes, and that's great. Here's the 4 questions, and I think you've already answered them. That you liked the ad was the question. Did you like the ad? Question number 2, who was it for?
Totino's pizza rolls.
You remembered that. What are they? Did the product tell you?
I mean, I know what they are because I know what they are, but I don't think the ad delivered that.
And you didn't need to, because the brand is ubiquitous enough. And then the last one you did answer, are you more or less likely to buy Totino's pizza roll because of it?
No, I think I'm someone who's very likely to buy Totino's pizza rolls, but I don't think that's affected by that ad or not.
As a whole, our editing demographic is likely to eat anything in the pocketed pizza category.
Yeah, it's definitely an important food category.
Top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
If you're
Mine, at least.
in Smith's or any Kroger grocer, and you're between a Hot Pocket and a Totino, it's not going to tip the needle for you.
Well, those are very different snacks, enjoyed in very different situations. But I would go Totino's, but I would say that if I saw a box of off-brand off-brand pizza rolls versus Totino's brand, I would normally go off-brand. But if the Totino's had Tim Robinson's face on it, I'd give it a hard think.
Would Chaz? What if they just had Chasmo's?
No, Chasmo would not swing it for me.
Yeah,
it's Tim Robinson.
You're like, these pizza rolls get me.
Exactly.
They know me.
They know. They understand.
How were you,
humor.
Dan? What was the biggest winner for you?
The biggest one I thought was the Lilo and Stitch running on the field. I thought that was really, really awesome.
As an ad buyer, talk about that. Why you think that was so great?
Well, I think just the ad itself was very engaging. You're like, oh, what's going on? And then the character is immediately recognizable, but they're kind of like reviving it and doing sort of what they're doing with all Disney movies, where they're doing like the live action version of it. But so it was cool. My kids hadn't seen that movie ever before, well before their time. And so it was fun just to see that through my kids, and everybody else watching is laughing because they recognize it. But I thought just how, integrated into the experience of watching the Super Bowl the ad was. It looked like he's running across the actual field, and it didn't feel like an ad, for a minute. It was just very fun to watch.
I think that's a really great point, even that harkens back to the Coinbase ad, how you place the ad. I mean, you're not going to hear a bigger champion of creative than me, but being creative outside the bounds of how can we deploy this ad. It was interesting. We kind of surveyed employees. The other person that called that out as their favorite ad was another strategist ad buyer, because the ad buy was so great. They put it right, so it blended in with the game. You didn't realize it was an ad at first. And you talk about the cleverness. And it always helps when the star of your ad is the product you're selling.
Yeah.
And unless you're Mr. Clean.
No, it was funny. It was a good one. And yeah, just you always want to think about where you're placing it, like you said, and every platform is different, and that just felt like the perfect, they knew that they were going to buy an ad. If they were just showing a trailer, that was the perfect way to do it, I think.
Well, I think that so many clients forget that, or brands forget that, where you're showing, people, there's millions of like ad hacks and marketing hacks, like take this one thing and then put it on 40 platforms. But the way you approach each platform is so different, and the way viewers are digesting. And I think that's put a lot of the like leading agencies a little bit behind. When Facebook ads started coming, they were just taking their big TV ads and putting them on Facebook, and it just doesn't work that way. But this is a great example of
building
the brand
for the platforms. Yeah. And I have 2 others that are runner-ups that I don't think a ton of people like just normal outside of our space will be talking about. The first one was the Hexclad ad.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't particularly think that the ad was amazing. They didn't show a ton of the product, but the reason I like it is that it's a direct-to-consumer brand, Hexclad. that is making a big splash and going into Super Bowl spots. So it was really fun to see a brand that we hear about and that we see, just in the space, really kind of taking that leap and going into the Super Bowl spot. So shout out to HexCloud for that. That was awesome.
And if you're interested in watching any of these ads, I'm putting links to all of them in the description.
Great.
So we'll put links to all of them. You can watch them. We thought, let's not play them now during our time.
Okay.
But if you want to watch any of these great ads, we'll put a bunch of them in the description. So yeah, I think the first D2C brand, the late 90s, we saw during the .com boom, we saw brands try to break into the Super Bowl. Like the pets.com was like one of the biggest ad failures ever. But now we're seeing that first wave of the D2C boom. I think Dr. Squatch might have been one of the first D2C brands to do a Super Bowl ad. I may be wrong, but it's certainly cool. We're seeing more and more D2C brands crossing the chasm from those early D2C adopters to becoming household names and national brands. So
the other one I liked was, just because I think it's a really cool way to launch a product, and I was surprised, is the T-Mobile one with Starlink. How T-Mobile, they already launched a ton of satellites with, according to the ad, with Starlink, and they're basically going to have sort of like ubiquitous cell phone service all over the world with the satellites that they launched. And it was like a beta that they're launching.
Yeah,
like sign up for the beta.
Free for the first 6 months.
Yeah, I thought that was
for any carrier. Any carrier you can try it.
Yeah, I thought that was an incredible way to launch a product, and I was just shocked. Like, oh, that's such a great idea. They've been working on it forever, and it wasn't that the ad was just groundbreaking or whatever, but it was just, oh wow, like I'm switching to T-Mobile tomorrow. Basically,
I think one of the take homes from that is offer a great service. A great product is half of your marketing campaign or more, because they've been teasing that service with YouTubers. Like if you watch Mark Rober, he's been talking about it, but to launch it, I think the Super Bowl, you realizing what it is, it's the best way to talk to everybody in America. It's the best way to talk to everybody in America about your product and to get that simultaneity and to start a conversation. And it's important to have something to say. I think some brands will fall into the category of ego branding. It's like, oh, we finally have enough money. We have money to burn. Let's do that. But I don't think it will change hearts and minds or even nudge, and $8 million per 30 seconds is a lot of money to spend to nudge. If you're not seeing significant consumer behavior. So let me go through some of the other employees, what they said.
I want to hear your favorite ad.
My favorite ad, I'm going to say, is probably going to be the Whoa ad. The Little Caesars. It was called out by Lana, our accounts manager. It hit my criteria for me. It was clever and entertaining, and I think you can provide value by just being entertaining enough. And with Eugene Levy's flying eyebrows around and whoa, and I'm like, yep, it's totally a Little Caesars ad. It felt on brand for me, and it made me a little bit hungry. I'm like, yeah, I might try those next time I'm getting an H and F and R. Next time I get a hot and ready, I will try one of their little ones.
I like how that's abbreviated.
Oh yeah, sorry. That's
Getting an H&R.
Yeah. I'll probably try one. And I also have a lot of nostalgia for the brand. In the late 80s, early 90s, Little Caesars had some of the best commercials. And I like good pizza, and Little Caesars is not that. But what it is it's convenient. And I thought the ad felt convenient, cheap. They went in with one celebrity, did one clever thing, and did it well. Where I think one of the things that we saw is a lot of people overspending on celebrities. I think celebrity just doesn't have the power that it does before. And Eugene Levy didn't bring star power. He brought, I kind of know that guy. And they did something funny with him, And Tim Robinson, they used what he was great at.
Another good example of that was the one with Seal. The Mountain Dew one.
I think the general consensus when we saw that was looks disgusting. And
that was a custom song. But my flippers can't hold it. It was so funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, it's not a super well known. I mean, he is, but
But what did you guys think when we had already seen the Little Caesars one and then the Pringles one comes on and then you see the mustache peel off Nick Offerman's
Right.
face, and you're like, wait, is this the same ad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like brands are always worried about, oh, this other brand did that 2 years ago. We can't do that. It's definitely more dangerous to like come out 10 seconds after another brand did it.
Yeah.
It's definitely harder to do that. Let me let some of our employees talk about their ones that they liked. Neil, one of the creative directors, his favorite was the We're Here. Did you guys see that ad?
That's the Instacart.
Very good. That's kind of why I just went by the name of it, because like they paid for all these got all these other brand characters, and like Instacart out of its competitors is the one that is not the first that comes to mind. Like DoorDash probably comes to mind first, Uber Eats, and then Instacart is like, now Instacart, is that a Shopify add-on? Like I just forget about it. So I don't know, maybe that will move the needle a little bit. Austin, head of Post, liked the Dave and Dave spot, but he said it's mostly because he's a Ben Affleck fan.
Yeah. Is that the Dunkin' Donuts one?
No, that
a
was
different one.
the Stella Artois.
Well,
Okay.
Which I thought there was a lot of humor in it. I thought it was a little long, but I did think it was funny.
I mean, granted, we're not the demographic.
Yeah, not the biggest drinkers here.
Not that, this podcast is
far as
coming
we
to you
know.
from Utah, so we're not. But I just think the conversation that just happened points out a big problem with the ad. Was that the Dunkin' Donuts ad? Like that is the worst thing. If you spend money, like, oh yeah, that was kind of funny. Maybe we'll get some Dunkin' Donuts. That's not what Stella Artois wanted to have happen on Monday morning.
the danger of using the same guy for multiple ads.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't because it's. Oh no, I'm thinking. Never mind.
Jack, one of our writers, his favorite spot, or at least the spot he shared, was the Nike ad. And according to Nielsen's, also the Nielsen's rating winner, had 9.7 million viewers just on that ad alone, which also then, once again, you look at your ad buy again, you're like, oh, they're actually paying a lot less per viewer.
Yeah.
If that was the most viewed according to Nielsen's, they're paying almost $1 per viewer at on a Nike ad. What did you guys think about the Nike ad?
Well, I love Caitlin Clark a lot, and so
I do too, and I don't care about sports, but I love her story.
Yeah, and so to see like Caitlin Clark in an ad, I was cheering during that one. Actually, I was clapping whenever Caitlin Clark showed up, and obviously there's a lot of other female athletes that I recognized in it, but I'm a big Caitlin Clark fan, so that was cool to see.
I just thought the "you can't win, so win" was just brilliant. Personally, I love that message. I can't remember specifically sort of everything that was said about why you can't win, but I could just think like, man, I could hear my wife kind of saying that in some situations as a woman, like, man, I feel like I can't win no matter what I do. So it's like, you can't win. You're not going to please everyone. You're not going to do it perfectly. So just go win, And I just love that. Very Nike,
It's kind of like, the best comeback is pointing at the scoreboard. You don't have to be clever. You don't have to be smart. Just win.
Did you guys see the post Super Bowl Nike ad for the Eagles?
Oh, no, I didn't.
A little side note here, but it was It's Not Easy Being Green, performed by Kermit the Frog, which if you know anything about the NFL, Patrick Mahomes is often compared voice-wise to Kermit the Frog. And so that was, I don't know if that was the intention, but it's pretty funny, and it's a really well-made ad. And they posted that after the Eagles won.
It's awesome.
And my friend, shout out Brian Watkins, I said, are you watching the Super Bowl? He's like, yeah. Who do you want to win? He's like, all I care is that Patrick Mahomes loses. I'm like, you don't want the Chiefs to lose, just Patrick Mahomes. Like, yes. I just want Patrick Mahomes to lose. I'm like, so would you be okay if the Chiefs won, but he got injured? It's like, no, I don't want harm to be fun. But I definitely want his team to lose. It is definitely personal. I want him. So
he must have been pretty happy.
And Kermit the Frog won.
Yeah, Kermit the Frog, biggest winner of this Super Bowl, Kermit the Frog.
I love it when a brand will pivot based on results. I was talking to Pillicube and I said, I think you guys should have 3 ads ready, depending on how the Super Bowl goes. Like, congratulations, Eagles, congratulations, Chiefs. And one should be just congratulations, referees. I hope you can sleep at night and have that ready to go. seems like they didn't need it. You know, there was a dubious penalty on the first play that a lot of people were talking about, but it turns out no amount of help was going to help.
I thought maybe the refs might be overcompensating because the Eagles were getting so many calls that sometimes I was like, that maybe the Chiefs should get a little bit more calls.
Man. Well, and speaking, Damian, to your point, I saw, just kind of brands playing off the Super Bowl, whether it's the results or whatever. I saw a brand just send out a text at halftime like, hey, we couldn't afford a Super Bowl ad, so here's, 40, 50% off your order for the next 30 minutes. Yeah. And they drove a bunch of revenue, just people sitting there at halftime. So it's fun just to take advantage of that moment.
Yeah, I think it's like Black Friday. Your brand should do something. I don't know what. I'm surprised that more furniture brands don't do something, because for them, President's Day is one of the biggest days of the year, and this leads into it, and they're going to see this big uptick in results. I'm surprised more of them don't hop on that moment. I'm also surprised one of these big brands doesn't do a spot or a social media campaign. We didn't pay for ad. We figured out if we did 4 spots, that would be $24 million, and we decided to do something good with it. And you can do a lot of good with that. And okay, let's talk about biggest misses. Worst ads ever. Worst ad ever. Jordan, strong opinions.
I have a strong opinion about this Super Bowl. My least favorite ad was the Harrison Ford Jeep ad. And I've got lots of reasons as to why it is my least favorite ad. Would you like me to get into my reasons?
I would like you to I have my opinions.
Okay.
We have you here to hear your opinion.
Okay.
That sound effect I put in is the sound of that ad crashing.
Okay, good. Yes, it did crash pretty hard for me. It aired towards the end of the Super Bowl, which I'm sure hurt it a lot, because by that time the Eagles were definitely going to win and a lot of people had dipped out. But it started off in a very traditional kind of car commercial of
like, this is America.
Yeah, this
land
is
of the free.
Yeah, integrity, and the greatest heroes are not the ones that you see every day.
Get off my plane.
And you're like, oh, like, okay, regular car ad, or regular Super Bowl ad, which is just like, hey, we love America and whatever. But then it hard pivots into Harrison Ford just saying, and I have a Jeep, and it's just like, what's the connection? Why? Well, what are you trying to say? Like, yeah. And so, Harrison Ford, he loves America or whatever, and he has a Jeep. Then it proceeds to go on for 2 minutes. I don't know how much money they spend, but it just didn't end. It just kept going and going and going and going. And it apparently, this is another criticism I have, because some people, they liked this joke at the end because he's Harrison Ford and he's doing an ad for Jeep. And those are 2 different car brands. By the point of that joke, I was so out of it, I didn't even notice the joke.
Yeah, I think if they had done an ad with that premise, there's a whole ad for it.
Yes.
But to add a punchline on a serious joke, but I think it was also that ad would be perceived different if we were like at war right now. And it's like, yeah, let's come together as a nation. And that's usually when you see a lot of those Americana ads come out. But where there's a lot of internal strife, it's like, we're America. And guys, it was kind of like came off as lecturing his dad a little bit. And as America's dad, stop arguing. It doesn't matter if we disagree. And it's like, that kind of matters right now. Like a lot of people care about that. And I think they could have been more effective if they had an ad that just played off the joke. I'm changing my name to Harrison Jeep, or there's a million things they could have done with that would have been funny. Or they just like, Jeep, we don't break down as much as we used to. Because they have this bad reputation, and I think they could have gone on. But yeah, to me, it came off as kind of finger wagging and lectury.
And I don't think a serious ad is a bad thing. There's plenty of good, like, serious Super Bowl ads. Like, even like, I think Daniel sent the Lay's one, which was really cute. And it was just, it was a nice, serious kind of, but it worked. Versus this one was serious and annoying.
And long.
Yeah.
And it's when you don't have, I think advertisers should think about that. No matter the results of the Super Bowl, most of the people are going to be upset towards the end. So you have to think about what mood people are going to be in when they watch it. So they're either going to be bored, upset that they're losing, or just so tense they don't want to, don't want to deal with certain types of humor during that period. Like emotionally, you have this moment where people are going to be feeling a certain kind of way. You could do something with that, but maybe not lecture them.
Yeah.
Dallin, thoughts on Harrison Ford?
Well, I think it was clearly not made for a me or a Jordan. I think it was made for like my dad, or like his dad.
I mean, I love Harrison Ford, and I'll listen to him read the phone book, but doesn't mean I'm going to watch him. I'm going to buy a Jeep, and it was like also it's electric. There's also, and while I'm talking to you, here's something else we should point out that Jeep does. And so I'm going to just dwell on this ad for 10 seconds, no more. This is the best worst ad for me is Carl's Jr. because they're my least favorite burger, and it was my least favorite ad campaign. They recycled an old concept and brought it back.
Brought back the TikTok girl.
Yeah, let's put a sexy model. Data has been pretty clear over the last 15 years. Sex does not sell a product. We thought it did, but it mostly makes men remember the image, but not the product. It makes them feel guilty. It makes women angry, and it does drive viewership, but not in the way you want. And it just it reinforces my negative feelings towards Carl's Jr. And some people listening to this right now is like, well, you're talking about it. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But my real favorite, it made me instantly, now I want either a Shake Shack burger. Of the fast food burgers, I'll probably pick a Wendy's or a Burger King burger over. But Carl's Jr., dead last for me. So their branding matched how I feel about their brand. So maybe successful, question mark? Dallin, did you have a worst ad?
I didn't like the Chat GPT ad.
Oh, interesting.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It, I just remember thinking, man, that was a big missed opportunity. Like you're one of the most, I don't know, sort of well-known products right now. You're sort of at this forefront of this huge new space, and you have a big opportunity, and you kind of just launched like a really boring, stupid, nonsense ad.
You know what their problem may have been? I bet they used ChatGPT to write it.
Probably.
ChatGPT and AI is a really amazing tool if you let humans drive it and interpret it and make mistakes with it and we've been talking about that a little bit, like what AI is going to do to our field. But the biggest losers aren't even the ones that we mentioned today, because the biggest losers are the ones that spent up to $8 million for 30 seconds.
We can't even remember them.
And we're trying to remember them.
Yeah.
And we can't remember them. And that was almost 4 hours of programming. I mean, there were so many ads happening during that space, and they just totally missed that. Let me give you a couple of other honorable mentions. So Johanna, one of our editors, suggested the Alex Palau ad.
There was two racing driver. I don't remember what race.
The
human race, Jordan.
The human.
That's correct. No, is that like a new?
I don't think
look like
it's
Formula One.
I
cars.
don't think it's.
Is it like a new?
Is it new?
Formula One sort of like? Well, because I was like, man, they're pushing this hard, and it's not Daytona. It's not. I didn't recognize it, and I watched Formula One. I'm like, what is this like a new league or something?
Like an American league kind of thing?
Because they're.
I mean, they're bringing more. Racing's getting bigger and bigger. Where it's been big in Europe for a long time, Formula One is coming.
Yeah. It's huge in the U.S. now.
So
I was going to say that those two were really popular in our household when we were watching.
Like talking about it?
Yeah, we were talking about the ad as it was happening.
But what's the product for if we don't even know the racing? Were they using the racing league as the setup for the ad, or were they advertising?
They're advertising they're building up the drivers so that you want to watch.
Yeah.
But I was like, what? Yeah, to your point. And I don't watch this as religiously as some people that I know, but I watch Formula One decent amount. And I had no idea what this circuit was.
It did stick in my head that they kept mentioning like it's stick in my head with an asterisk, because it either said the fastest cars in the world or the fastest race in the world.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the same point, but that really stuck in my head because I didn't know the race, but I was like, oh, is this faster than Formula One? Because I thought Formula One was the fastest.
I did too, but then I was like, well, maybe in Daytona they get up to a higher top end speed. But then is this like Formula E? I'll have to look it up. Now I'm
Interesting.
intrigued, because I did think those ads were good.
I was kind of thinking some of the same things, but I just remember, oh, DHL got some nice placement here. I'm like, oh, I forgot that they're a delivery brand because, you know, FedEx, but the helmet, the first shot, you remember those things. I don't think that's, I mean, there's a difference between not being remembered and asking a great question. If you can send people on a quest, that gets them off the TV. I think if you're like, oh, I should look that up, I should figure out what that is. And that might be part of their marketing strategy. We're building up some hype about it, but we're not going to give you all the information. But that might have been a better strategy for them to take a pre-launch tactic, kind of like we talked about, starting teasing like what is, it's not something you've never seen before, you know, the fastest race. And when they're careful with their words, like the fastest race in America, you're like, they didn't say fastest cars. So what does that, we're so good these days of understanding when people phrase things a certain way, like what they're not telling us is as important as what they're telling us, and it makes you ask certain questions.
I have to say I loved all the movie trailers. And I think it's brilliant for a movie. I mean, like the Lilo and Stitch one was my favorite, and it's for a movie. But just seeing the trailers, you know, you spend $7-8 million to show a trailer, but I think that's like the perfect place to do it. And they had, I mean, the Formula One movie with Brad Pitt. They had the new Jurassic World one or Jurassic Park one. They had the Thunderbolts Marvel one and a couple others that I thought, they had the Mission Impossible one. I just thought movie trailers, I think, is a perfect place to advertise during the Super Bowl.
Absolutely, because you don't have to be funny. You just have to give them a taste of what you're making, what you're cooking, and then they want to come and get the rest.
Yeah.
Online, movie trailers are one of the easiest things to get, but it's hard because you really want to target everybody. For a movie to make money, they really got to get everybody in, and so the Super Bowl is a great place to do it. And the shift in the last 10 years, it's really blockbusters that they're doing well at the theater. You're not seeing independent films don't have the chance that they used to. They're going straight to streaming services and straight to their niche audiences, and so that's a great way to get them. Any other stinkers that are sticking out to you guys?
Stinkers.
Or bad ads that were just outright painful to watch, like, ooh, that was cringe. Martha Stewart gets an honorable mention for appearing in 2 different campaigns.
She does, yeah.
And
what did you think of that one where she was dancing? I thought it was kind of funny, actually.
To me, it was painfully obvious that it wasn't her dancing.
They knew that, but they knew that, you know, like they weren't even trying to, I don't even think they were trying to hide that.
Yeah. Well,
funny.
yeah, but I just like, it felt like VFX, like with the face, the deep fake of her face on the person who was dancing. It just watching that, like, just as, you know, a video editor, I was like, I don't love to be able to see VFX or to be instantly aware of VFX.
Kind of breaks that fourth wall for you.
So Martha Stewart, as a brand, one probably bigger than the brand she advertised for. She was in 2 spots, so her payday, I'm guessing, was probably somewhere between $2 and $4 million for being in 2 Super Bowl spots, because if they did that much work, they did a time buy longer than that. They're going to use her throughout the year, so she's going to be making some money off those ads. I was going to say, you know, honorable mention was, we talked a little bit about it, was the Matthew McConaughey series.
For the football?
For the football.
Like food and football?
Food and football. And I mean, just so much production value went into that, and so many cameos and actors. You know, their budget was probably almost as big as their time buy, which is significant because they did it as a series. And I love when brands do that, but it no longer has that surprise. Oh, wow, they got Kevin Bacon for 5 seconds. I'm just thinking like, man, these guys spend a lot of money. No wonder it costs so much money when I use Uber Eats. Like, that's where my mind goes. I see all of that. But I think they'll get a long tail out of that. They'll use that campaign all year long.
And they already have been using that campaign since the start of the season. I think I've seen the Jerry's Eating Rice commercial. I don't know if you've seen that, but that's Matthew McConaughey in that one.
Well, that proves my ignorance about football. So, you know, that might be the case. But it's like, they certainly spent a lot of the money. All of the money, the Uber amount of money on it. Well, I think that's all we've got today, because I'm not going to talk about any other ads that weren't worth mentioning. So thank you for joining us on the Totally Radvertising podcast, Super Bowl LIX edition. Thank you for joining us. And if you, like we said, If you want to see any of these ads, they'll be in the comments, in the show description, that is. We'll put links to YouTube where possible, sometimes Dailymotion. And check us out every Thursday on the Totally Radvertising podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Talk to you next week.
It's totally rad. It's totally rad.
Join us every week right here on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, or wherever you listen to stuff for your pods.